Hey there and welcome. I'm Jason Lynette, and this is the brand new WorkSmart Hypnosis production studio. For those of you that have been tracking the personal story, we successfully lived in 6 different houses over the course of about 5 months, and then last month settled down here in Orlando, Florida, after living in Northern Virginia for going on about 14 or 15 years, migrating everything down and been sharing along the way what's working in terms of bringing in hypnosis clients, what's working in terms of attracting them, in terms of communicating the value of what we provide, and along the way giving you the resources to get out there too. That the more we're all successful, the more we're all successful, and that's where this profession really begins to grow. One part of this video here is a bit of a surprise talk on the subject of niching down. One part of it, there's some content that I'd love to share with you here, as I spent some time today on the phone with people who were asking about the upcoming WorkSmart Hypnosis live training event. Check out the new technology. There's the link down below. Hey, that worked. So this is a professional training experience. It's a certification course, though I'll tell you about half of the people are brand new to hypnosis. Meanwhile, the people I talked to today already have a significant level of training, and now they're looking at how do they narrow down that focus and become more effective inside of what we do. The new home studio, let's see if this works. Camera 1, camera 2. Yes, we are fighting lighting in this room. If you actually glance out this back window over here, you can see it's pouring rain down here. What we've discovered about living in Orlando, Florida, is that here's the size of the rainstorm that we would typically get in Northern Virginia, and we get the same amount of rain down here. But instead of the storm lasting for like 3 days, it just all drops in like 30 minutes. And then it's over. And then the sky is beautiful. So that's fun. Turns out we're actually on the same power grid, apparently, as the Disney parks. So knocking on the fancy folding plastic table that I'm using until my stuff arrives tomorrow. The movers arrive. We'll see where this goes. So let's take some time, though, and talk about niching down. Because for the new student, or even the person who's been well established inside of what they do, the thought is often, I need to pick something specific, and I keep hearing this phrase that the niches are in the riches, and there is some truth to that. And by the way, if you haven't heard the talk on this already, I know for some of you around the world, you refer to it as a niche, and you're welcome to say it that way. It's your right to say it that way. However, niche rhymes with rich. And that's why we prefer it that way around these parts here. So the thought would often be, again, I'm starting up and I'd like to offer out my services, and let me give you both sides of this so you can see the different perspectives in terms of how this can often play out. One school of thought would say the sooner you can narrow it down to one specific thing, yes, that's going to help your marketing message. Yes, that's going to build some clarity inside of what you do. Yes, that's going to help you to build confidence even faster, because here's the one thing that, let's call it out, you're going to get good at really quickly. Meanwhile, the other school of thought would say, begin as the generalist. Don't pick one specific thing. Don't limit yourself too early. And this is how you can build confidence in a lot of different things over a short period of time. So both of these schools of thought are exactly right. There's a bit of a presupposition inside of it, though, which would be, first of all, there's a way that we need to change how people learn hypnosis. Most hypnosis is taught in a mechanism that I now refer to as top-down education. All right, here's what you do for a fear of flying. Here's what you do for a fear of public speaking. Here's what you do for someone who bites their nails. Here's what you do for someone who wants to quit smoking. Here's what you do for someone who's an entrepreneur and is maybe standing in their own way and procrastinating, imposter syndrome, fear of failure, fear of success. Here's the top-down education. Something magical happens when we change the format of how it's taught. If instead we can teach from the bottom up, what happens now is pretty significant, because now here is a technique for change. And now that you understand how this technique works, now that you know how to modify it more specifically to your client, well, from that perspective, once you know how to do that, we can open up a classroom discussion, and now it becomes, all right, how would you modify that technique for fear of flying? How would you modify that same technique for a person with a fear of enclosed spaces who's about to go into an MRI for a medical procedure? And do you see the shift here? How do we use the same technique that we just talked about for anxieties, for fears, and modify that same technique to address a craving that someone's having, and that's the reason why they believe they need to keep smoking? I'm pointing here because I did a whole stop smoking session today with somebody who kept referring to that craving, that craving. Yeah, but when I get that craving, real quick nuance here. This is a tripod, and thoughts, feelings, and actions. If you can change one dynamic of one of those three things, thoughts, feelings, and actions, like a tripod, we went directly after that feeling in that session today. Knocking that leg out, the tripod doesn't now have 3 level legs, and it's going to fall down. So because she was so kinesthetic and kept focusing on that craving, that feeling, that's where the session began. By listening to my client, seeing what her problem was, and designing a process. That's something that classically I would have done for a client, like for hypnotic pain relief. That's something I would have done if it was like, this sort of welling up of anxiety or fear. So we have to go dirty dancing on this, as I like to say, that nobody puts hypnotic techniques in the corner. One of you liked that, so we'll keep going here. So I bring this up because the school of thought that would say, pick something specific because you can get more confident in that one thing even faster, I would argue against that. Not for the sake of recommending the other mindset around niching down, but instead from the mindset that when you start to look at how we do hypnosis and how flexible all of this stuff is, the issue is kind of secondary. It's instead, what's the map of what they're dealing with? Those of you, I'll put the link up here again, WorkSmart Hypnosis Live. This is the certification training that we now do live and online. I think I've got this ready. Check this out. There it is. Yeah. When you go to that page, there's a big video at the top of the page that's going to answer most of your questions about the class, plus the ones you haven't yet thought to ask. So dancing back and forth, WorkSmartHypnosisLive.com. Watch that video. That'll give you the roadmap of how the training then plays out. So this idea, though, of niching it down, you can see that, again, it's a bit of a false conversation. In that training, there's a story that I tell. It's a hypothetical story, but it would be, let's say you now walk into a room. You walk into a room, and there's 100 people there. And you ask 100 people, how do you feel? And if those 100 people now respond that they feel fear, step 1, you're in the wrong damn room. Step 2, to then start to address that issue based on that label. I'll tell you right now, you don't yet have enough to work on. Because when you ask the right questions at the right time, now you've got the roadmap in terms of how they create that fear in their mind, consciously and unconsciously. Now you've got the answers in terms of the kinesthetics, in terms of what that feels like. And now you've actually got something to address. And that's going to become an entirely different session. And why am I bringing this up on this topic of niche or not to niche? That is the question. Well, it's because one part of that dialogue includes, again, a presuppositional flaw, hashtag new sentence, has a flaw inside of it that's making an assumption in terms of how hypnosis is taught. Really, the official answer, we finally have the answer on this. The official answer in terms of, do you have to niche down? Do you start as the generalist? We finally have the official answer, people. Pick one, be consistent. There you go. Because I'll tell you a bit of my personal story on this. I began by, part of the reason why I'm often cautious around kicking off with the niche is you might decide you're interested in other things. That might be a helpful journey. I was working full-time as a stage hypnotist, but I would say that I was the stage hypnotist with the hypnotherapist heart. I was going into assemblies at high schools. I was going into corporate groups. And it was always based upon what issues are your communities facing? How do we use the laughter of the program to then embed the positive message that your students, your staff, whatever it may be, needs to hear. So because so much of my time was spent around high schoolers and just basically figuring out the high school kids responded extremely quickly to what I did. And let's say this one, if we could hedge off a lot of problems that people run into as their kids rather than as it gets deeper into their adulthood, we'd all be in a much better place right now. So I started off by doing all that work, working directly with kids and teenagers. And to say it politely or impolitely, now that I have my own, I don't really want to see yours. And that may sound harsh, but the reality is still there's some kids that I do tend to work with, mostly teenagers and some sort of peak performance athletic or even high performance student type thing. But the reality is you've maybe been to a podiatrist before. That's a doctor who decided they wanted to spend the rest of their life talking about feet. You've been to a dentist. That's a doctor who decided they wanted to go into dentistry. They wanted to look at teeth. I've got two neighbors that are both anesthesiologists. They met in med school. And as they went through medical school, that's what they were the most passionate about. And that's the career path that they're in. So we all have that right to decide what are those things that we work the best with. So that was my original journey. That's where I started. But then eventually what that morphed into instead was here was the interaction with the parent. Here is the interaction with the coach. And these people had serious issues that they wanted to address. And I kind of became the public speaking guy, the business guy, by listening to people and seeing these were the things I was the most passionate about. Now, inside of this, though, the best recommendation for someone who's brand new to hypnosis is, first of all, my scope of practice talk is very simple. When in doubt, don't. Even with the level of confidence and years of experience that I've got, I don't take every single client that calls me. And even better, if you look at the Virginia Hypnosis website now, you can see a style which is really the purpose of this presentation here, which is that you can do both. I want you to now imagine a dog whistle. Do you hear that squeak? Yeah. This folding chair has moved to too many different houses. The furniture arrives tomorrow. If you look at the Virginia Hypnosis website, rather than show you the screen right now and let you get lost in the technical aspects of web design, let me do it right here, because this is how we learn business better, by the way. If you understand the psychology and the philosophy behind the sale, the platform doesn't matter. Everything I'm about to say, you could apply over to social media. You could apply over to an email blast. You could make it work for a website. And the website example is the one I'm going to be talking about here. So you want to metaphorically, not literally, otherwise you'll be on the news, but metaphorically smack your potential client in the face right away with the information they're likely looking for. So visually here, this is the logo of the Virginia Hypnosis website. Here comes Stop Smoking. Here comes Business Confidence, which is a big thing that I work with as a focus. Here comes Hypnosis Training, and then here comes everything else. And I will openly tell you the last 2 or 3 years has been a game just like I guess you can call Survivor a game show or maybe Bachelor, which I have seen no episodes of, but clearly I'm an expert at, of dwindling it down just to those few select things. And it's not for lack of efficacy or confidence. It's to say, this deep into my career, we opened up Virginia Hypnosis in November of 2009. And before that, I was living in downtown Baltimore, where it would have been stupid to call it Virginia Hypnosis. So that was just Jason's the hypnotist, go see him. So in that time frame, though, it's where I've purposefully chosen to select it down to just a few specific things. Remember, top-down, bottom-up education. This is one of those themes we talk about inside of WorkSmart Hypnosis Live, how really these days I'm doing the same 15 to 20 techniques. And the artistry is inside of the customization to the individual in front of me. So if you're stuck inside of rigid protocols, if you're stuck reading scripts, if you find yourself guessing and you don't know what to do with your clients, check out that link below. We've got space. The next class is kicking off in about a week. There is a little bit of pre-work. You'll easily catch up. It is a full 10-week program, though, You'll see all the details when you go to that page. Watch this full video. That will answer most of your questions, plus the ones you haven't yet thought to ask. Back to non-web design, web design. Logo, quit smoking, business confidence, hypnosis training, other. So the nature of this now becomes, here's the message I want you to take away from this. You can be the generalist. Yet like the dog whistle metaphor, we've got 2 dogs. We haven't yet trained them to respond to a dog whistle. But if we had, chances are one would respond, the other would ignore us. But if we had, we'd go to the dog park and you blow the dog whistle. You don't want every dog to come running. No, you just want your dog to come running. And let me look at this camera, because here's a big takeaway. The moment you embrace the fact that a message that you put out there maybe isn't going to be a fit for everybody in the world. The moment you embrace that you can put a message out there and broadcast, whether it's social media, whether it's a page on a website, whether it's a full website all to itself, the moment you lean into the fact that it's okay to put something out there that's not a match for everybody, that is that moment where so often I have seen people's careers take off even stronger. I'll call it out. Hey folks, this Friday is 7 years of the WorkSmart Hypnosis podcast. It's been going out for 7 years. We're recorded now all the way through, I believe, September. And I know not every episode is a match for every single person. You all need to listen to Kevin Lepine's episode, which comes out tomorrow, even if you're not a stage hypnotist, because when you hear his definition as to what a pre-talk ought to satisfy, damn, it's good. Listen to it, it's great. But here's the idea. You can be the generalist, you can use the dog whistle strategy. Whenever you put out a marketing message, narrow it down to one specific thing. If you ever get the invite that someone wants to write an article on you and your business, if you have to, make sure they write it about one specific thing. If you are looking at designing a new business card, or if you get the invite to put up some kind of brochure somewhere, don't let it be the jack of all trades. Instead, narrow it down to what is this audience looking for. I'll give you a great example of this, by the way. Students of mine in the past heard me give this talk that I'm about to say, and they would go, but I called that business group, they didn't want to talk on hypnosis. And it's not that they didn't want to talk on hypnosis. It's that they did not yet know that they needed a talk on hypnosis. I'm going to come into your business group. I'm going to teach 3 strategies to feel more confidence in public speaking. Show is better than tell. I would use that as a mechanism to then seamlessly talk about hypnosis and give a very soft offer. Some of you can make use of these techniques and see some great results, though I know some of you want to create stronger results even faster. And for that, briefly, I run an office nearby. Here's what I do. If you'd like to chat further, see me after the meeting. That's the big fancy sales pitch. I'd have a line. So value first. So look at that mechanism. I wasn't going there and talking about weight loss, pre-surgery, fears, improving your golf game, stop chasing cars, stop watching live streams. No, keep watching. I wasn't talking about anything and everything. Instead, what was the one thing that that audience would want? That's what I delivered, and then I gave them a simple invite. The formula is always the same. Some of you have heard me say this before. Audience, engagement, invitation. It's the same sequence no matter what the platform is. So I wanted to pop on here and share this. Again, I was chatting with people who were signing up for the next WorkSmart Hypnosis Live. We've got a few spots available for the next event. If you've got questions, check out that page. Watch the full video that's there. Though I'm available to you. Head over to that site. There's a spot where you can schedule a time to chat with me. You can send me a private message as well. But I wanted to share this with everybody because it was a dialogue I got into several times today around, do I have to? And the answer is you could, but you don't necessarily have to. And be open. In November of 2009, even in June of 2014? Yeah. I did not know I was going to become the guy who's teaching business owners how to make use of specific hypnotic language hacks, and then using that as the mechanism to then sell my services, work with them one-to-one. But on top of that, as much as I've told you these stories, I have 3 new clients right now. One just signed up today, so I almost said 2, but it's 3 now. Fear of driving on highways, which isn't even on my website. And yet, here's the takeaway. They see he can work with those other things. I bet he can help with that. So just to quell the final fear, which that word is, I think, 13 points in Scrabble, just to get rid of that final fear, people are often concerned if I broadcast one message, they won't come to me for the other stuff. And the answer is no, they will come to you even faster. If you found this helpful, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear what your takeaways were. If you're looking to get greater results with your sessions doing hypnosis, if you're brand new to all of this and you want the right tools to get up and running, starting faster from the bottom up to build that unstoppable confidence inside of what you do, check out WorkSmartHypnosisLive.com. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Studio. Yay. All right.